Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat? Good to welcome James Hurst back to the show, former Saints offensive lineman doing great work now with WDSU. James, we appreciate it, man. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing awesome. Probably the vibes aren't quite as good inside the locker room, man. Take us there. I don't know, looking back at your career in Baltimore and then with the Saints, that you ever went through a 5-game losing streak. Now, I guess so with Sean Payton's final season. What's it like? What's it like whenever you go through something like this?
Well, it's funny. I didn't remember that I went through a 5-game losing streak until I was made aware of that a few days ago, which tells me that it's something you block out of your mind. But it's tough. It feels like it's never gonna end. It's very easy for doubt, to enter your mind, and you start to wonder if you're the problem. You start to think about your job, right? Because if you're not winning games, they're gonna find new guys, give them chances to play, and try to right the ship. And that's kind of the situation they're in. 5 straight is really, really tough. I don't think on paper you see this team losing 5 straight, but unfortunately injuries and then just seems like a bad spell on defense has them in this situation.
This is something, I'll follow up there in a second, but this is something that I could ask you now as James Hurst, the analyst, that James Hurst, the player, would probably have a very different answer to. At 2-5, like, we're all sitting here going, realistically, with the injuries and the schedule ahead, like, they're not digging out of this hole to make it to the playoffs. What would James Hurst, the player, say, and what does James Hurst, the analyst, say when you look at the vision for the rest of this season for the Saints?
Yeah, James Hurst, the player, you have to be optimistic. If you get too down and that attitude becomes very contagious within the locker room, particularly being a older player, a veteran player, guys are looking to you whether you realize it or not. So with people in the leadership position, and I trust that they will do this well. I'll say that. The leaders on the team in the locker room, they're great people. They've been in this situation 2 years ago. So unfortunately, it's a little too recent. But they know what to do. They know what to say. They know how to handle themselves and how to act to get everyone on board, to do the things that they can do to right the ship. Now, the analyst side of me agrees with you. It feels like 5-game losing streak, 7 games in, you still got over half the season to play, but it just doesn't feel like enough guys that they seemingly need to get healthy. It seems like the clock is ticking and they're not going to have enough time to get guys healthy, to get them back in the groove of playing, because it's one thing to be healthy, but it's a whole other thing to get back on the field and produce like some of these players can produce. So it feels like the clock's going to run out, unfortunately. I do still foresee the team getting healthy and them going on a run late and making it interesting, but it feels like there's just not enough games left.
James, I'm not being funny with this question. I have no idea if you're in playing shape, but did they call you?
They did not call me. I talked to Mickey and Ty Harley and Jeff Ireland when we were in Kansas City covering that game. They kind of joked about it. They said, someone said your name at the table, but we didn't call. And I kind of laughed at them and just said, that's a good thing. It wouldn't have worked out. I probably would have lasted about 5 plays out there before I got hurt. But yeah, it's something that definitely crossed my mind. And my agent, he kept me up. He's like, don't be surprised if your phone rings this week.
I mean, I wasn't being funny with the question because it's not unprecedented, and the injuries that they faced are what's unprecedented, and someone who's a veteran, knows the system, could maybe jump back in. But, it's interesting. You and I spoke when they were in the midst of the first 2 weeks when it was going so well, and I was asking you for your perspective and context on why that wide zone and everything was working so well. Is it, James, fair to say, like, is it just the injuries that have caused this amount of a retraction from what we saw that was so historic those first 2 weeks?
I do think most of this. Now, I'm particularly talking about the offense here. Let me be clear when I say that. The defense is kind of another story, but the offense, I do think mostly, yes, it's the injuries. Losing Eric McCoy, who's one of the best in the league at his position, your franchise quarterback, losing him, and your backups, are very inexperienced and don't bring much to the table at this point in their careers. So, yeah, I'll say mostly it is injuries. However, the one kind of theme that I've been really interested in, so many people have talked about Taysom, right? And he missed a game. I believe it was the Eagles game that he missed, and the offense looked way different. And then he came back and the first half of that Cowboys game, and the offense kind of lit back up. So I think the question that I ask is, why Taysom's a great player. In no way am I taking anything away from Taysom when I say this, but you can't construct an offense that is so reliant on one player, one non-quarterback player, to seemingly just give that spark, right? I know he lines up all over the place. He plays all these different positions, but it's like, as soon as they lost Taysom, the surprise factor of the offense, the excitement kind of left the building. And then you stack more and more of those injuries on top of that, and it's just insurmountable. I think you can replace one starter, two starters, maybe three starters. But when you're talking 6, 7 starters on one side of the ball, it doesn't matter who you're playing, what coach you have. It's too much to replace.
Can I just follow up? I'm just to clarify. Are you saying, and I don't know if this was like you felt the same way when you were playing a year ago, but are you saying that Taysom is too integral a part of the offense, or was it just more like the spark that you're talking about?
Well, some of it's the spark. I think what I'm saying is the offensive scheme was too reliant on him being present.
Okay.
Taysom goes out, and sure, you're going to see a drop-off because another player is going to come in who's not a starter. They're not Taysom. However, the size of the drop-off that I think you saw shows that, hey, we're relying maybe too much on what he brings to the table or the kind of uncertainty that he gives to a defense.
And you don't feel it was like that last year when you were in that offense?
Well, it didn't feel like it because the way that they've used Taysom this year is even more variable than I played when I was with him. One play he's fullback, next play he's tight end, then he's quarterback, then he's running back. It's like they're moving him all over at such a high rate that it is a huge advantage for the offense because the defense can't possibly check and know any adjustments because they don't know what position he's playing when he comes out of the huddle.
Dude, I could talk to you for like 5 hours straight. James Hurst, I'm not going to keep you just for maybe a couple more minutes. James Hurst, former Saint, of course, doing great work with WDSU now. You did mention, and by the way, I agree with you on the offense. Like, you can't overcome all of the injuries on offense. For me, the bigger thing is, man, this defense, which under Dennis Allen has been so good for so long, has just come apart at the seams. They're literally dead last in the NFL. So what do you see? What has happened there?
The obvious one is tackling. Now, I can't really explain to you why. The many of the same players are still the starters there, but the tackling has to get fixed first and foremost. Too many missed tackles, and it seems like they're in big situations, third down conversions, open field one-on-one situations where there's so many more yards after the missed tackles. So that's gotta be fixed. And then 1B is the rushing defense. Dennis Allen, he coaches in a too high safety defense. That's what they like to be in. They like to play man to man. So the corners in the secondary, they're not able to support the run as easily as if they were in zone where all eyes are on the ball at all times, right? So they rely on the defensive line and the linebackers, and at times a down safety to come in and help stop the run. But if they can't do that, they can't be in the defenses that they know best, the defenses that they play best. And it just seems like it's taken them completely out of who they are as a defense. And until they figure out how to keep, the rushing game in check, they're not going to be the defense that they're designed to be.
Yeah. James Hurst, before I let you go, Dennis Allen did announce that if Derek Carr isn't available this week, that they will stick with Spencer Rattler. How do you feel about that? Should Rattler, or do they give Jake Haener a shot with the 10 days to prepare?
Yeah, it's an interesting situation. To be honest, I was very surprised that Rattler got the nod 2 weeks ago. You knew he was going to be going in back-to-back short weeks as a rookie with no real experience, and they decided to name him the starter. And to be honest, he's done some things that have been very impressive. Again, like we've talked about, he's battling uphill. His supporting cast is really tough. In order for him to have some success, they're going to have to run the ball effectively. They're going to have to get their play-action game going. And then you lose Shaheed, who's really, taking the top off the defense. It's just going to be super tough for him. But giving him the nod again, I'm okay with that. I think from a confidence standpoint, you're giving him a real shot. It's not like, okay, he got a short week, then he got a Thursday game. Well, that's nearly impossible as a rookie to grasp the game plan in time, to be able to go out and learn from your mistakes and then go execute well. So I'm excited to see him with 10 days. I think 3 games is a good stretch. I think the team will have a decent idea of what they're working with after they see this. But Jake made it interesting going in and driving down for the touchdown late in that last game. So, I don't know. Again, it was so surprising. Jake being the second quarterback, I think it speaks a lot. It speaks a lot about what they thought of Rattler when they kind of bumped him above Haener for these starts here.
James Hurst, guy played a decade in the league, 4 seasons in New Orleans, now doing work at WDSU. Great stuff, man. I always appreciate your time in the chat and the insight, man. Thank you for making time today.
Absolutely. Thanks so much.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.